A few years ago, a young man named Vlad sat in my clinic. He was tormented by a very peculiar, suffocating anxiety. He couldn't shake the obsessive thought that maybe we're living in a simulated reality. The universe felt fake to him. His own perception felt fake. He didn't need traditional therapy. What he was experiencing was a massive structural void. Today we're going to explore one of the most profound and misunderstood forces in human psychology and the exact root of Vlad's anxiety, the archetype of the father. In this video, we're going to explore how a lack of structural validation from the father leaves you feeling like you're never quite worthy enough. We will uncover why this void turns you into a chronic perfectionist and why it causes you to attract partners who give you just the bare minimum because you subconsciously believe you aren't worthy of receiving more. We will also look at how, in its most severe form, this lack of validation might actually cause your soul to run a biological program to self-destruct. And if you stay with me until the end of the video, I'm going to share the story of Helena, a woman who was given 3 more months to live by her doctors, but who used the exact principles we're about to discuss to crush that death sentence and survive for 15 more years. Let's go back to that young man in my clinic, Vlad, who felt the universe was a simulation. In Chinese medicine, the concept of meaning, of reality, are deeply tied to the metal element, and the metal element is intimately connected to the father. So when I listened to Vlad's story, the diagnosis was immediate. His father had abandoned him when he was just 3 years old. Vlad grew up without a foundational structure. He was forced to become the man of the house before he ever received the validation to be a young man. Because he had no internal structure, he developed a desperate dependency on his girlfriend. She could feel his insecurity, and because it made her feel unsafe, she began pushing him away. We mapped his Chinese astrological chart and used Karmic Acupuncture to actively cultivate the exact energetic resources he lacked. Now, this didn't happen overnight. It took about a year of deep therapy to rebuild what was broken. But month by month, the existential anxiety melted away. And the most fascinating part was physical. Vlad had always been tall, but it was only after a year of activating his father archetype that I actually started perceiving his height. He walked out of my clinic as a self-assured man, finally standing upright, no longer needing to lean on anyone else for his right to exist. To understand why Vlad suddenly stood taller, we have to look at what the father archetype actually does. In psychotherapy, the focus almost always falls on the mother. Life starts with her. In Chinese medicine, the mother archetype is governed by an extraordinary vessel called the renmai, or the conception vessel. It runs exactly up the anterior median line of your body, like a zipper on a jacket. Its function is containment. It helps you hold your boundaries and survive. But once the child is safely contained, the father must take over. The father is governed by the dumai, the governing vessel. The meridian starts at the coccyx and runs all the way up the spinal column to the top of your head. If the mother is about containment, the father is about expansion, curiosity, exploration. When a father takes a child by the hand and says, "Let me show you the world," he introduces the child to the outside world, which means introducing them also to mistakes. If the Father archetype is strong in our lives, we have no fear of approaching failure again and again. We never take it personally. Like that famous line from the Batman movie, we fall down so that we can learn how to get back up. But listen to me, if you're watching this right now and the word failure feels like a deadly sin to you, if making a mistake creates a deep, painful resonance in your chest, if you constantly equate an external failure with you fundamentally being that failure, that is the ultimate sign that the Father validation never came in a sufficient amount. You were never taught how to safely fail. This archetype serves several distinct, powerful functions in your life. It dictates your relationship with failure. It programs your future relationships. It determines if your soul has permission to exist. And it quietly protects the mother. Let's break these down. So first, let's look at how it programs your identity and your future relationships. At or around the age of 7, a massive psychological and energetic shift happens. The child moves from the mother's sphere of containment into the father's sphere of exploration and curiosity. For a boy, the father becomes the absolute blueprint for how to exist as a man. It is this archetype that teaches a young man how to court a partner with that persevering, penetrating masculine quality without ever crossing into aggression. He learns that rejection and failure are nothing serious. They're just part of the process and can be easily brushed off. But if a boy fails to receive this validation, that energy implodes. It turns into deep timidity, into crippling social anxiety and an inability to assert himself in the world. For a girl, the father is the first validating masculine force. He sets the absolute baseline for her worthiness. If she feels cherished, loved, and protected by her father, she will naturally understand that these are the exact characteristics she must demand in a future partner. She will only accept a man who is as connected to her and as safely masculine as her father was. Anything less simply will not do. But if her father was absent or critical, she will attract partners who give her the bare minimum, because her nervous system subconsciously believes she isn't worthy of receiving more. But what happens when this validation never really comes at all? The child internalizes a lethal belief. I am not wanted. I am a glitch in the system. In cellular biology, when a cell is damaged or compromised, the immune system orders it to self-destruct, to protect the whole. This process is called apoptosis. When a child receives no structural validation from the father, they may experience an apoptosis of their soul, because they subconsciously may believe the system is better off without them, or at the very least that they must play a much more peripheral role in the family because they're not worthy of being loved. They begin to systemically sabotage their relationships, their wealth, and their physical health. For tens of thousands of years, an unvalidated child was an uncared for child, and an uncared for child died. So your biology developed a trauma response, the guilt reflex. You take on burdens that aren't yours, you overachieve, and you try to be perfect in every way, because your ancient biology believes that if you just appease your parents enough, you will finally finally be validated. And if you're validated, you get to live. There's another hidden way this archetype functions: by quietly protecting the mother. Often what people spend years in therapy treating as a mother wound is actually the secondary effect of a deeply failing father. The father archetype is the ultimate provider and structural protector of the family. He protects the mother by actively supporting her, by caring for her needs, caring for the child's needs, and sharing the heavy burden of the household. When he provides that structural support, he gives the mother the respite she needs to stay soft, nurturing, and giving. But if the father is emotionally absent or fails to provide that support, he forces the mother to carry an inhumane burden. She becomes exhausted, overwhelmed, and brittle. The child feels that harshness and absorbs the lack of safety. The mother could not provide the Renmai containment simply because the father was not providing the Dumai structural support for the family. Our parents were human. They battled through life with limited resources. The perfect father archetype is unachievable for any mortal man. But the archetype itself is very real, and it can be tapped into. By looking at the mathematical blueprint of your Bazi chart, your Chinese astrological chart, we can find exactly where your specific wound, the father wound, resides. We translate your life lessons into a highly individualized strategy, and using Karmic Acupuncture to unblock the Dumai, bypass your history, and actively energize the father archetype directly within your nervous system. Let me show you the ultimate proof of this. In 2009, a woman named Helena came to me. She'd been diagnosed with advanced liver cirrhosis stemming from hepatitis C. Her doctors had given her 3 more months to live. She told me, "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to live." In Chinese medicine, the liver and gallbladder are the organs of anger, and Helena was carrying an ocean of it. She had come into this world with what her father considered a major existential flaw. She was a girl. His guiding sentence, which became her lifelong curse, was, "You've been born a girl, and therefore, by default, you will be worthless all your life." Helena's life became the physical embodiment of that curse. She attracted people who abused her. She married a man who was the mirror image of her father, a man who humiliated and beat her. Her unexpressed rage was literally destroying her liver. We bypassed the classic medicine death sentence and focused entirely on healing and activating the father archetype. We used Karmic Acupuncture to rebuild her Dumai, teaching her nervous system the validation she never received. She gradually got rid of her anger and turned it into determination and power. We worked on helping her internalize her own worth. Months passed, then a year. Her blood tests showed her cirrhosis was actively decreasing. Her doctors actually accused her of falsifying the results because her survival should have been medically impossible. I had the pleasure and honor of working with her for 15 years. Year after year, I watched her muster the internal strength to stand up for herself. The ultimate graduation diploma of her healing came at the age of 78, when she finally divorced her abusive husband. She had found the absolute validation within herself. She passed away peacefully 3 months later, having crushed her 90-day sentence by 15 years. We've spent these past videos exploring our ancestry, and we've deconstructed both the Mother and the Father archetypes. Finally, we reach our core self. This is where our past meets our free will. The ultimate question is, what are we going to do with what has been given to us? In our next video, we're going to explore our own personal journey of evolution. We will see that this journey is not random, it's not chaotic, it is actually perfectly defined through the spiritual journey of the 12 main acupuncture meridians, which are grouped, as we shall see, into 3 distinct phases of evolution. And we're going to look at exactly how to rebuild your reality. Until then, stand tall, like Helena.